Welcome to the Tipping Point Show. I'm Jimmy Evans. You need to know that today is going to be a very special program. I have joining me today L.A. Marzulli. He's an author, lecturer, and filmmaker. He's written 12 books, including the very popular Nephilim series. L.A. is a frank supernaturalist who lectures on the subjects of UFOs, the Nephilim, and ancient prophetic text. And this is the second show that he's going to be doing today on Roswell. Roswell, the famous incident with spacecraft and aliens and all of that we've all heard so much about. LA has done two films, two documentaries on Roswell. We talked about one last week. We're going to be talking about the other one here today. LA, thank you for joining me today.
Great to be here, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm just fascinated by this. Last week was just fascinating, and you've done two films. One, the first is called Exoneration. And we talked about that last time when you were talking about Jesse Marcel and how there he is right there. Yeah, there it is. And want everybody to get that, and you can stream that. We're going to give you the addresses here in just a minute. But Exoneration, the second, is called The Debris Field. Now, this is fascinating. So a lot of us have seen specials on TV, for years about Roswell. And they have this debris field, there was a cover-up that said this was a weather balloon, which it was not, and you document that in your first one. Okay, so then you went actually to the debris field. Talk about that.
So we hired a guy. There's a tour group there, and you can hire the van, and I think it's like $75 or whatever it is, and it's like a 2-hour tour. And the guy drives you around in the van, shows you all the parts. Well, this is boots on the ground. This is what this guy does for a living. So we hired the entire van for the 2 hours. So we took all the seats, and we had Gil Zimmerman, my business partner. James Peterson was there. He's our sound guy. So, and then myself, and we're running around with this guy, and he's telling us, right over there is where the Marcel house was, and there's Glenn Dennis, the funerary home. And so now, well, what's that building over there? Well, that's, in fact, let me back up. In the very beginning of that film, I am standing where the gate to the 509th bombing group used to be. And we show that, what it looked like in 1947. I'm standing there. It's just like, it's unbelievable. You can see by my face, it's like, whee! It's incredible. So I'm standing there, and that's the intro to the film. And then we show, different clips. So that was sort of our starting point. And then we went to the place that used to be the hospital where the bodies were taken. There's nothing there. It's all raised. It's just a dirt field. Okay, but we were there, and I talk a little bit there. Yeah. Then we go by Hangar 84. And Hangar 84 is where the wreckage and the bodies were kept. And they were flown from there to Wright-Patterson Field. How do we know that? Multiple witnesses that come on the record over the decades. Most of them deathbed confessions, most of them. And the reason for this is people are so burdened with the fact that they're keeping something that they can't tell another soul, and they know they're going to die, and they just spill the beans. Who cares? Yeah. I'm dying anyway. I don't care if you kill me. I'm going to die in 3 weeks or a month, whatever. So they spill the beans. And I've learned over the years, Jimmy, that unless you press, and I've been doing this for a while, and decades actually, and unless you press the initiative, unless you go for it, you got to grab the gusto. You got to grab the gusto. So we pray for the Lord's favor, and it is the Lord's favor. He's opening doors for us. There's no doubt. So when we're at Hangar 84, and it's exactly the way it was in 47. Now they've done upgrades and blah, 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 but the hangar is still there. The exact hangar that was there in 1947. Wow. Chain link fence goes around it. You can't go in there. So we're filming on the other side of the chain link fence, and I see this guy smoking a cigarette on the other side in Hangar 84, on the outside of Hangar 84, on the other side of the chain link fence, smoking a cigarette. So I go running up to him and go, "Hey, man, look, we're from a small film company. We're from California. Is there any chance we can get in and film inside Hangar 84? So he says, "Yeah, come around to the front." So I'm like running like this, to the front of the building. Gil's got the camera's jiggling. Everybody's running to the front. Next shot, we're inside. We've just met Bull, who is the commander-in-chief of the base at that thing. He's like the overseer of it, the manager of it. And you can see that I'm in the foyer. And there's gates, there's doors that are there. I'm on the phone with Bull, and I go like this. to the camera, and he's coming down. So he comes down 20 minutes later. We speak with him. Next thing you know, we're inside. We're not in the foyer with the locked, magnetic door. We're in the corridor. We show that, and we make a right turn, and we're in the conference room. Bull's sitting at the head of a table, and he's holding court. I'm asking him questions. All that's in the film. And then I go, hey,
Wow.
Can we take a look inside the hangar? He goes, sure, come on. It's like, so we walk in the hangar 84, and I'm like this. I'm like a kid in a candy store, because I've seen Hangar 84 since I was a kid in other documentaries. Here we are, and there's a huge plane in there. They're dismantling it and they're doing all this stuff. And I mean, I'm just sitting there just dumbfounded. We're in Hangar 84, and this is where the wreckage was taken. How do we know? Walter G. Haught, in a deathbed affidavit, an affidavit that he did legally, with people present, witnesses present, that wasn't going to be opened up until the time of his death. After that, it became public. You can go on the internet and just type in Walter Haught, Haut, deathbed affidavit. It will come right up. You can read it for yourself. Haught is in Hangar 84. The wreckage is there. The disc is there. The bodies are under a tarp. Bo, who's the manager of the commander of Hangar 84, took us into the back room. In the back room, he said, well, there's legend and lore that this is where the autopsies may have been performed. It's a very small room. It's possible, but we don't know. Then we've got Colonel Hill. When we talked about this last time, Colonel Hill was OSS, forerunner of the CIA. His deathbed confession stated that in 1947, he was flown to Roswell, New Mexico. He was an interrogator to try to communicate with the one entity that was still alive. He could not communicate with it. Then we've got nurses that disappeared. We've got Glenn Dennis with the small coffins. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Jesse Marcel Sr., who we talked about, never saw the bodies, but other people did. Walter G. Haught stated in a deathbed affidavit that he saw the bodies. Colonel Hill, deathbed confession, stated on the record to Jim and Carolyn Rankin, who were sort of end-of-life caregivers for Colonel Hill. And he got to know them. Carolyn would go in and speak with him like every day. That's what she did. And then sell off his possessions and give the money to wherever, he wanted to bequeath it to. So what's interesting about this is that, Colonel Hill, a month before he passed away, spilled the beans to Carolyn and said, yeah, I was flown there. I tried to communicate with the entity. It had 6 fingers, unlike we do, not 5. It had 6 fingers. And it's a deathbed confession from Colonel Hill. So he's flown, he's seen it. Then we have, again, on the record, a woman that was her husband was in the hospital. A woman comes in and she's elderly. I was stationed at Roswell. I got right there. I was there right after the incident. The other nurses were shipped off to a convent. I mean, the story, the cover up just goes like this. But they can't keep the lid on it forever, because witnesses in deathbed confessions come up and they tell the story. So we know that the wreckage was stored in Hangar 84. We know that an airplane pilot who also came on the record, deathbed confession, flew the material to Wright-Patterson Field. This is not in the film, but I had a man or a woman come up to me who was active at Wright-Patterson Field. They were active, and they told me there is one hangar there that is guarded 24/7, and you can smell the formaldehyde when you get near it.
Oh, wow.
And obviously it goes down. The hangar is just above the surface. This thing goes down into the ground.
Wow.
And, it's just, they can't keep the kibosh on it forever.
Right.
And this is why in 2017, when Commander David Fravor came on the record on Tucker Carlson's show and stated that whatever this was not of this earth. Why would he say that? And we've had numerous people come out, but then you've got Admiral Ryder who's come, nothing to see here. It's all, we can explain everything away. So you've got this push and pull. But then you've got David Grush, whistleblower in Congress. Whatever this was we recovered craft, which is not from this earth, and we recovered non-human biologics. So what are we to do with that? So, we were there. We went to the Roswell Museum. We interviewed Frank Kimbler and Dennis Balthazar. Both of these guys are ufologists. It was great to interview Dennis Balthazar, because I've seen his interviews, and he's done he lectures at the Roswell Museum, I think, once a month. So you can check him out there. But he's also in our film, and he talks about just all the nonsense and the cover story, the weather balloon story, which is just total nonsense at this point. So Frank Kimbler has gone out to that field numerous times, to the debris field. He knows where it is. He's gone out there. He spent a lot of time with a metal detector. So just so you know, the powers that be have taken nails like this and spiked the field. They've gone in and put these into the field, in the debris field number 1. This is actually from a debris field.
Wow. Just to throw off your metal detector.
Just to throw off your metal detector. And so they spiked the field. But they didn't do all the field. And Frank Kimbler knows where to go. So Gil Zimmerman, my business partner, and the co-producer, co-director of the films that we've been working on, and Jim Peterson, he's a real prayer warrior and our sound man. We're in the debris field. And before I tell you what happened, to get to the debris field, we drive about 45 minutes to an hour outside of Roswell. It's a 4-lane modern freeway. But back in 47, it's a 2-lane road.
Right.
Okay, so it's a whole different deal. So we're driving on a 4-lane freeway. We show this in the film, and we make a left turn after about an hour. Now we're on a 2-lane country road. No houses, or there's just a few ranches, lots of cattle, barbed wire fences. We're on that for 35 minutes, 40 minutes. Then we make a left-hand turn. Now we're on a dirt gravel road, which is a cattle road. Free-range cattle to the left, to the right. Sometimes we have to stop the cars because the cattle were crossing the road, and we're on that for 30 minutes. Then Frank Kimbler, our guide, and he's been out to the field numerous times. He opens up a cattle gate and we go out. And now we're 4-wheeling. And we're in this very rocky terrain. And if you don't know where the debris field is, you'll never find it.
Yeah.
Never find it. It is in the middle of nowhere. And Jesse Marcel Sr., we showed this clip. He said, unless you had a guide, I never would have found it. And that's exactly it. Because everything looks exactly the same there. Unless you know where you're going, you'll never get there. Finally, we are on top of this high place, and we stop the vehicles, and Frank goes, there it is. It's off to our right, and we walk down to it, and then we're standing in the debris field. We filmed in the debris field. We flew the drone in the debris field. During a month before, I was reading Psalm 121. The Lord has me memorize certain scripture. I look to the mountains, where does my help come from? My help comes from you, maker of heaven and earth. He will not let you fall. Your guardian will not rest or fall asleep. Indeed, the guardian of L.A. Marzulli will not rest or fall asleep. The Lord is my guardian. The Lord is a shade over my right hand. The sun will not beat down upon me by day, or the moon by night. The Lord guards my life. The Lord guards me from every evil. The Lord guards me as I come and as I go. So I'm playing that in my head, right? Not realizing what I'm actually proclaiming, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Get to the debris field. It's July. It's hot. It's 95 degrees.
Wow.
It's supposed to be, a real scorcher, as they say in the Northeast, in Boston. It's a real scorcher here in LA. So we're in the debris field, and we show this in the film. Gil flies the drone. Jimmy, there's a cloud over the debris field the entire time we're there.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and Frank Kimbler's going, I'm not sure what's going on here, but he's not a believer. But, this is the best I've ever seen it out here. It's like, and we're cracking up. So we're all praying together. Lord, I kind of did a cleanse the land thing. I just said, Father, what happened here? This land is unclean. We rededicate it to you. What happened here was not a good thing. And we just rededicate it to you. Send your angels, do whatever you want to do, cleanse the land, and give us favor. We're done the prayer. We're still by the truck in a prayer huddle, Gil and Jim and myself. And all of a sudden, Frank Kimbler goes, hey, guys, I got a hit, like this. And we go running over, cameras jiggling, like, typical thing. We get over there, and sure enough, beep, beep, with the metal detector. Beep, beep, beep. He's got a little garden spade. He starts digging down, beep, digs down again, beep, digs down. He's down about 6 inches, all right? The ground's really hard. He He's down about 6 to 8 inches. So now we've got a pile of dirt, and that's where the object is. And so he starts sifting it. He takes some of the dirt in his hand. Here's the metal detector. Doesn't go off. Puts the dirt here. Takes another pile of dirt. Goes like this. Beep. It goes off. Now he takes it and he sifts it. Puts part of it in his hand. Goes to the metal detector. It's not there. Last handful, he goes like this, and he takes some of the dirt and he finds this in a debris field.
Wow.
He finds a piece of the wreckage of the metal buried 6 to 8 inches. It looks exactly like the other pieces of metal that he has found. It is folded in on itself. It shows, according to the metallurgist who examined it and tested it, and we'll get into that in just a second, it shows properties that are not normal. It's undergone some sort of a very traumatic event. Right. The edges are scorched, are burnt. The metal, something very traumatic has happened to the metal. We show this in the film when the UFO comes down like this and hits. It goes up, and then when it hits the second time, it explodes, and shards of metal go flying out like a bullet out of a .22. They didn't get it all. Frank Himmler was out there, and he found 3 military fatigue buttons, aluminum buttons that were issued between 1940 and 1950, again, buried in the ground. They didn't get it all. They had guys shoulder to shoulder, probably on their hands and knees, picking up all pieces of the wreckage, but they didn't get it all. And that's why, it buried itself into the ground. So before I get to the punchline, I'm giving away the farm here, but I would encourage you to watch the films because both films are about 2.5 hours. For the price of a Starbucks cup of coffee, $4.99, you can rent both of them. Streaming.lamarzulli.net. So we're out there filming. We're interviewing Chuck Zukowski, Mr. Cattle Mutilation himself. He's in number 6 on cattle mutilations. Very dark, unnerving film, extremely dark, but I digress. So we're there with Chuck and Frank and the film crew, and I'm interviewing these guys about Roswell, and we're talking all things Roswell. Well, the batteries in our cameras are full. They're 100% charged, right? All of a sudden, the batteries go from 100% down to 0. Jimmy, I've seen this before. Down in Silistani, near Lake Titicaca in Peru and Bolivia border, right? We're at Silistani, these huge towers. Chase Klotsky, who's a ufologist, had all these gadgetries, Gauss meters and all this stuff, fully charged batteries. She walks into one of the circle ruins, just the foundation. Just like that, all the batteries get drained. Just like that.
Wow.
She goes back down, changes the batteries, goes back in the circle, just like that. Once again, happened twice. I've seen this before, and this is what happens. They mess with, and they can do this with the electrical current. When we took out the implant, which is a whole other film in our Watchers series, right? And I allude to this. We're the only Christian ministry to take out an implant from an abductee. So for those of you out there who believe that there's no physicality to the subject, think again. That's why we're out in the field. This guy was abducted. He was implanted when he was 5 years old, and we removed the implant. That's a whole other show, Jimmy.
And I've seen that. It's fascinating. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
And we go in there to take out the implant, and we can't find it. Where 2 weeks prior to that, our Dr. Matriciani took the ultrasound wand and was going like this and found it within a minute. Found it instantly. Oh, there's the implant. We'll see in 2 weeks. We'll take it out. For an hour and 20 minutes, we can't find the implant. Holy Spirit taps me on the shoulder. LA, you need to take authority over this and do it now. See, we have authority as believers.
That's right.
If we're in a situation with a bunch of unbelievers, we don't ask permission. We just do what we need to do. Yeah. The Holy Spirit just told me, take authority, and I did. And I said, okay, I'm in a room full of non-believers, except for my late business partner, Richard Shaw. And I go, this is going to sound weird, but I'm going to pray, and I'm going to do it now. I did not ask their permission. I don't need their permission. I just prayed. Father, if there are forces that are cloaking this device, I pray that you would break that force and do it soon. Jimmy, in less than a minute, the implant appears on the ultrasound machine monitor.
That's amazing.
It comes from way back here like this. And everybody goes, what's that? And Dr. Matriciani goes, that's the implant. And then he proceeds to take his ultrasound wand and go like this and tap it and look at it, trying to figure out, why is it working now? We know why it's working now.
You bet.
And this is what they do. They can mess with the electrical grid, which is often why you see UFOs over wires, high tension wires. They get the energy from this in some way, shape, or form. And we don't have all the information on that. And so all the batteries were drained in the debris field. So, Frank Kimball's out there. He finds the piece of metal, which I showed you, just like that.
Right.
And we found 2 pieces of metal. He says, we've never found 2 pieces. It's the first time in 12 years since any of this is on film. It's on film. I'm boasting we're the only Christian ministry to actually go to the debris field and find pieces of the wreckage after 76 years, 77 years. And the metal was tested at 2 independent labs. Both metallurgists said, whatever this is, first of all, it's not an exact match. So we have nothing that matches this material exactly. But the metal is closest to an aluminum alloy, the 7000 series, but the isotopic ratio is not the same. It's not an exact match, but it's as close as we have it. Here's where it gets interesting. That metal was not invented till 1953. Wow. Roswell happened in 1947. What's that little fragment doing in the debris field? What's it doing there, folks?
Yeah.
Buried 6 to 8 inches below the ground. And the isotopic ratios are not the same. It's from this.
Yeah.
Craft not from this world. That's what it's from.
Thank you for joining us. If you're a subscriber to endtimes.com, thank you. If you're not, go to endtimes.com, $7 a month. You get the entire Tipping Point show without commercials, plus all the other podcasts we do, all the other articles we have. We have breaking news to keep you up to date with everything happening around the world. $7 a month, it's a bargain. You can't find a better bargain than that for the information that we give about the things that are happening in the world. Thank you for being a subscriber, and thank you for giving here to endtimes.com. You can go on endtimes.com. There's a donate button there. You can give a recurring gift. You can give a one-time gift. Many of you are giving to the ministry above your subscription. Some of you are giving and you're not even subscribers. Thank you for helping us build this ministry, because we have a big vision for taking this around the world, reaching more people with the gospel and with this message of hope and encouragement for the end time. So thank you for all of that, for joining me today. We'll see you next time. God bless you.